From dating to relationships, from sex to love, from Christianity to politics, from darkness to light, you have now entered into the real zone. Welcome to Conversations with Trent, where no topic of conversation is safe from discussion. Now, here he is, Mr. Epic himself, Trent Williams.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, beautiful people? I know it's kind of funny you guys seeing me in the middle of the day like this, but I got a special guest here to talk about a special project that we worked on together 30 years ago. That's right, Mr. David Williams, my mentor, one of the guys who was actually very significant in my life from a kid. And I'm proud to have him on to talk about this vintage album. That's actually the single, All I Need Is Actually Due, out Christmas Day. Let's bring David Williams in. Let's talk about this album. What's that?
Trent, how are you, man?
Dave, see what's going on with you?
Not bad at all. Thanks for having me on. You're much too kind. Those are some kind words. You know,
I appreciate you coming through, man. Coming through and talk about this vintage album, this Don't Be Afraid album that we're actually revamping it and remastering it and pushing it back out to the folks. Kind of pushed me back on my heels for a minute because it's been going overseas and selling in France for $349 and over in China and all these other places, Japan, and I'm like, okay, let's try to get in front of this.
Yeah, you know, and while you're doing that, get your publishing folks to make sure the licensing is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always coming through the teachable moment. I appreciate that.
But it's been, you know, when we talked about, I didn't realize it was that long ago that we had done this album. As a matter of fact, man, you must have been what, about 11?
That's
right. You were very young.
Yeah, it was pretty. Actually, it's 30 plus years. I just put the 30 on it because that's when we released it. But I think we took about a year to work on that album.
That's right. Sure did. Yeah. It was a good experience. You know, it was not only just a good experience for me, but for you guys as well. Coming out of the middle of the country at that time. See, a lot of people today forget that with the internet, you're just 20 feet away from stardom. You know, if you have a computer in your house, you know, you can. There's not a lot of legwork. Sadly, there's not enough industry to even call it much of a business anymore, unless you're in that upper echelon. Sadly, I'm not trying to, you know,
before we dig into it, tell the folks exactly. Run down what you've done. You're very modest when it comes to that. But you've been very significant in my life, in the industry and in personal life. You know, we ran an owned and operated studio here in New Orleans, a corporate car studio. Right. But everything that I know about the business, I got it from you.
Well, a lot of it because you also started networking with a lot of important folks who were helping you to, you know, put the finishing touches on certain things. You know, you're only one person. You can't do it all. It does take a network of folks, you know, to pull it all together. And you know, I just happened to be, I think how we first met is you rang my doorbell and a friend of ours in common had sent you over to the house. And I think it was probably you. Who said, man, we the baddest thing since sliced bread. And I probably had some kind of messed up answer for you. But you know what it was? You were talking about something about opinions. And I'll let you talk about that some other time. But
go ahead.
Here's what made me want to see what you guys were about. And this is serious now.
Right.
I'm from New York originally. Now I'm out in Los Angeles. You guys are coming out of the South. you were coming out as young gentlemen. Forget what you do in your own time. You guys knew how to shut that noise off and get down to business. And I was impressed with how gentlemanly you guys were when you need to be. And that's all it has to be, when you need to be. And then we started talking about your music, and I'm listening to it. And the music was good, but it didn't have, or in my opinion, it didn't have what was necessary for either coast. Might have worked well in the center of the country, but it didn't have international legs. And we talked about it, and I think I talked with you guys pretty candidly about good songs, good and good performances, good singing, but it still has to be woven together in such a way to catch on with the mainstream public, and I didn't think it had it at that point.
Right.
It needed a little. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
You know what I remember coming out? I think you were out in Marina Del Rey, and got a call from a guy. He's like, "Hey, first I met Tisha first, and she suggested I see you." So I'm like, okay. So we go out there. He's out there in a high rent district, and
not that high, but
knock on the door. Oh, knock it.
Well, let's just say the rent was being paid. Okay, so, go on.
So I knock on this door after we've worked a ton of, years on this project, right? So I'm writing all these songs and all this stuff, and I'm, I got the big head at this point. I was Teddy before Teddy was Teddy. I'm thinking like, we're gonna get up here, we're gonna, do our thing.
That's funny. That's funny.
I didn't indulge in the Los Angeles nightlife, and I'm feeling good about myself. So I knock on this man's door. So I give him the tape. Not this actual tape, but this is the
Michael and Lewis were with you. Mike and Lewis were with you.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I say, so he takes us up in his studio, in his loft studio. So he pops in the tape. He pops in the tape, start playing it. So he's listening to like maybe 3 to 4 songs, right? And so I'm eager to hear what he has to say, because this guy has played with everybody, Hall and Oates, OJ, everybody. So I'm like, so what do you think? This man, first time meeting me, tell me I could do better before breakfast.
Wait a minute. What did I say?
You could do better before breakfast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do remember. Well, okay.
So I'm looking at him. So I sat there for a minute as he's bringing some orange juice, some what do you call that? Premium blend orange juice out. So we drinking and sipping.
That's right.
So I'm sitting there, and I told him, I said, an opinion is like an asshole. Everybody has one. But do you want to mix this record or what? So
that's what you said. That's right. That's right. I remember.
But not only did he mix the record, he co-produced that record as well. Be honest with you, produced the record, the entire album. It was a good thing, real good thing. How was it working with the teenage Trent?
Younger Trent knew the answer to everything. Couldn't tell him much of anything other than, it was, I think, your first or second time out to LA. You might have needed directions to a restaurant or something, but beyond that, you didn't need anything from anybody. And so, and there's positive and negative ego.
Right.
The positive ego says that you can do it and you have the facility or ability to do it and do a good job with it, because then otherwise everybody'd be on stage. The negative ego is where you believe that you know everything and you can't learn anything. Now, I recognized a little bit of that in you, Trent, because there was a little bit of that in me. as a young
Wow.
musician coming up in New York, thinking that I had all of the answers and folks were going to write books about me, until my first professional session with musicians whose names that I would see on the backs of albums. Keep
Right.
in mind, I'm about 18. And I got fired off my first gig, not because I couldn't play, because I would overplay
Right.
and didn't
But
understand the mechanics of making a record as opposed to playing live.
you know
That's
the
what
thing.
you
You know the
guys,
thing I love about you. But you know the thing I love about you though is that you knew that I was way in over my head, and you took your time with me. I would call you 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking
6
about
days a
business,
week,
like
5 or 6
yeah,
days a week. I remember losing all that sleep. Yeah, man.
but
Nah, but you
every
know what?
time I called, you would pick up. Every time I called,
Yeah, because
every time.
I didn't have caller ID. No, you know what? I'm gonna stop joking about this because this is very serious. You and I talked about this on occasion. It's important when you run into someone who has that look in his eye, like I'm gonna do this in spite of you, or with or
Right,
without you. Might take me a little longer, but I'm gonna get there. Fine. And
right,
I recognize that in you and Mike, you know, Lewis, uh, as a group, you guys fit, see, and you all had talent and ability or strengths in certain areas
right,
to to help the whole team effort along. But when you would call, you didn't call with nonsense. You call needing some information. And if I can, and if
right,
I have the information and don't give it to you, then I don't need to be. I don't, a lot of guys my age back in the day would talk about, man, those guys think they could sing, man, to hell with them. So I said, well, why don't you help them? Man, to hell with them. I said, well, then you're part of the problem. If you
pretty
don't like the
much,
music, you don't like what they're doing, you don't like how they approach things, you don't like their stage presence, well, help them with it. Or don't
pretty
complain.
much,
Or just shut up.
right,
Flat out shut
pretty
up.
much,
So I would have a lot of folks say to me, man, why are you messing around with those guys? I said, first of all, you've never known me to mess around.
right.
It
I
must be,
mean, like
yeah, go on.
they started making that the Don't Be Afraid album. Hey, Mark, you remember Mark? He used to come by the vault. He's saying what's up to you. He's commenting what's up. Can you see it on your screen?
Yeah. Mark, how are you, man? Oh man, it's been how many years?
Man, it's been how old is Kenny? About I don't know, about 18 years.
A long
Before that,
time.
because
Yeah, man.
a few
Mark,
minutes.
well, he can't hear me, I guess. But in
Oh,
any
he can
case,
hear you. He can hear you.
oh, okay, cool. Mark, what's good? Hope everything's well. Merry Christmas to you, man.
Yeah, but
Um,
making that album, the Don't Be Afraid album, man, was a huge experience for me because I got a serious lesson in the industry from you, even with the how to approach the album, the
yeah.
things to do with the album, from the engineering to the sound, the mixing, the mastering, everything. You had your hand in every single part of the project, from distribution to everything.
Well,
Everything. I
yeah, well,
learned everything from you.
yeah, but you see what it still starts with, and it's not about tossing around accolades and all this, that, and the other. It
Right.
still starts with who I'm dealing with. I don't have all of the answers to everything, but I had a network of folks who were willing to give me the information or assist me make things happen. The distribution deal through CDR, California Record
Yeah.
Distributors. That was the largest independent distribution company in the country.
Right.
Anything other than that would have been Sony or Capitol or what have you, but it was tailored to you guys. And
Right.
so there were folks who assisted us with that, or just when you sit down to make a record, it's no longer about you; it's about your listening audience.
Exactly.
Um, the engineers, you had a couple of nice engineers out of the Louisiana, out of the New Orleans area.
Yeah.
But the one thing that was missing is some of those engineers didn't have the benefit of having recorded Boys to Men,
Right.
Janet Jackson, you name them. All of your engineers worked with the major artists.
Right.
Along
You're
with
absolutely
you
right.
guys having some good songs and good voices, a lot of it was pretty easy in that respect. You know,
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that it was a good experience. Your whole product, bass style, the the talent, the songs, the production was ready to go, and you had the funding. Is what 99% of most artists don't have, and that's the wherewithal or the finances to make it happen.
Right.
Sadly, today,
Absolutely.
people do their own records at home, put them online, get 6,000 views, and they think they've come.
Exactly. And
Sorry.
as I was preparing for to speak with you, I was thinking about the stuff that I had to go through to actually re-release this product, right?
Yeah,
I'm sitting there thinking,
and it
I'm like,
starts with paperwork, which is something
yeah,
that nobody seems to understand anymore.
absolutely. And
Starts with paperwork.
I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, wow, these kids today, man, this is something new for me because anytime we had to promote the record or go out, we'd have to either get on a plane, a train, or whatever, and go to the next city, and there and therefore or whatever.
Yep,
But
yep,
from the push of a button, you're not even talking to anyone anymore.
that's
Everything
right.
is AI driven. You're not talking to anybody. Everything is uploaded. Boom, it's gone.
You're not building relationships with
Nothing.
DJs,
Nothing at
record
all.
pools, promoters, whomever. It's just a numbers game.
Exactly.
It's just algorithms, and it's like, well, I mean, it's cool. Things change. Back in the day, when you guys came along, it had advanced from what it was in the 60s and 70s, where you look at the Otis Reddings or the older groups traveling in 6 or 7 cars to get to a gig.
Right.
You guys were flying and had people carrying your luggage. You know you did, man. I might even grab one of your bags at one point.
It was a good experience. It was a real good experience. It's definitely a good
It was great.
experience.
The See, a lot of your listening audience doesn't know. I don't believe they know that you and Mike and Lewis were that close to being the next thing talked about at the dinner table.
Yeah. I
I
don't talk
mean,
about it much. I don't.
well, yeah,
To be
well,
honest with you, this is the most I've talked about Vase Style since we disbanded.
everything was in motion to kick off. And sadly, with the issue with your mom at home and whatnot, not to put
Right.
all your business out there like that, but you made a
Okay.
decision. I became more of your friend than business associate or someone who cared a lot about you when your whole mission was family first.
Right.
You were willing to kiss all of that, all of what was getting ready to come down the pike. You were willing to compromise that, give that up to go home and take care of your family. And there aren't many people who would do that.
Right.
And so from that point on, even to this day, here it is 100 years later, we can call each other whenever and talk about whatever. And sometimes it's not just entertainment, it's how you doing.
That's true. You're right.
And that's more important than all the other stuff. See, because as you know, all you got to do is watch the internet. A lot of folks who had all them chips and whatnot is now going back to their old neighborhood looking for their old friends.
Exactly. I mean, it's great to have a friendship with you. I mean, I was preteen. I was a teenager when I met you. You know, 19, 18, 19.
Were you?
Yeah.
You weren't married yet, were you?
No, I wasn't married at that time.
That's right. That's right.
But I hate the thing about I was married, and you kind of gave me a talking to. Once
Yeah,
I
man.
got married, I jumped on a plane the next day, headed back to LA. Remember, we were staying at the Oakwood. He was like, "Nigga, what you doing back over here? Didn't you just get married?"
That's
I
right.
was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, take your ass back home, fool. No.
And listen, I think Mark had a question for you, real quick. One sec.
Mark, what you got?
Mark he's asking.
Oh, I can't see the screen from here. You know, I'm old.
I'll read it for you. Normally, I have D here reading it for me, but
okay, some background from then till now.
Correct.
Well, yeah, I'll keep. I try to keep it to 30 words or less. In school, I had some idea that I wanted to be a science teacher. And I'm a teenager and also working in my father's real estate office, helping out like everyone does with the family business. My brother and I had a little garage band like everyone else, and somebody drove by one day and asked us if we would play for his daughter's Sweet 16 party. And we weren't thinking about that. I didn't even know how to price it. My brother did. And we did the gig, and I'm saying, wow, somebody's paying me for something that I would have done for free.
Right.
And so as you know, we springboard and we got some gigs in and we're trying to just play music. We still had our focuses. Our focus was still set on teaching, or in my brother's case, he wanted to be an accountant. Then we were offered more and more gigs, and the money was decent. As a matter of fact, when I was still in high school, I was making more money than my school principal.
That's when you guys had the jingle company. This guy's when you guys were doing jingles, right?
That was a little bit later. The jingle thing came in when I was about 20, 21. But when I was 18, 19, 20, I was doing record dates. I worked with Hall & Oates for a short period of time, Patti LaBelle, and a number of artists, the OJs for about 9 years. A lot of record dates.
Right.
Yeah, quite a bit of work. And then when I stopped playing, I wanted to do more record production. And I did a few, I've got a couple of, I didn't produce them, a couple of gold and platinum albums with the OJs and stuff. All of that's good. Some smaller records that I would do on new artists, and built a couple of studios. And now I'm living in upstate New York.
Back in New York.
Huh?
Now I'm saying you're back in New York.
Yeah, I left New York, and then 100 years later, I come back, to New York. Some health issues brought me back. I'm saying I ain't gonna die in Houston. Let me go home, man. And I stayed busy. I'm still busy now. I have the studio here in the house. It's sounding good. It's about as large as a studio, a commercial room that I had in Houston. I'm comfortable here, working on a lot of music. Just finished a project today from one of my clients who's still in Houston, and I'm staying busy. But I'm watering it down because it's really not about me. It's about the business, and it's about anyone who's listening, thinking that, I've had so many clients who just think it's so easy. You come in, you record a song. You don't even bother mix it down. You take the mix, you say, "Ooh, this is tight," because you may not know any different. So it sounds great.
That was the one thing. That was the one thing about you. You were a stickler on. It was like, man, if you're gonna record a record, make sure you record it to compete.
You got to compete because you don't know who's going to hear it.
Exactly.
My brother and I used to
process. The entire process was grade A.
Yeah, like
finish.
Your engineers who came out of New Orleans knew a lot of stuff, and they were good guys. I can't complain about that.
Yeah,
it needed to go to that next level. And then we went to a studio, the studio that you did the earlier stuff in, not the stuff when you came out to LA. They were decent rooms, but they weren't the rooms that the major artists used to compete with.
There was a
So you
difference. It
were,
was definitely a difference.
oh yeah, yeah. But Mark, the thing is like the it's easy when you have in the early days. I was a drummer. I didn't have a roadie. I didn't have. I'm the first one into the club, setting up all my stuff, and the last one to leave.
Right.
After a while, I had a roadie who would pick me up from my house and take me shopping at the music store and make sure I had everything I wanted. I mean, come on. I mean, and so folks who do it 24 hours a day for a living have an
Right.
edge over the guy who might be a mailman who has to haul a mailbag all week long, and then he's dead tired when he comes home to work on a song. You're already behind the eight ball,
That's
unfortunately,
right.
because most folks who do this for a living sleep late. Somebody makes their breakfast for them, and then they complain that the toast isn't done properly.
Right.
Come on. So if you are doing it, if you are interested in getting your voice heard or getting your music delivered to the public the way you envision it, not because I'm an old guy, but find somebody who's been in the business for a while who you can bounce some ideas off of. Because
Exactly.
if you have two newbies helping each other out, that's the blind leading the blind. Yeah, I mean, and I understand the enthusiasm and the passion. Spotify, all of these subscription services are hoping that you're passionate and you pay money to see that they make money.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about it when I was going through this process, with this remaster stuff here, I'm like, damn. Like I can remember speaking at, the distributor company, distribution company when we're sending this stuff out, we getting,
Right?
you know,
That's right.
$7-8, was independent. So
Yeah,
we owned everything.
yeah.
So so when I'm looking at this stuff with Spotify, I'm like, God damn, this ain't no money. So,
Oh, well, first of all, and I think I remember your numbers. Wholesale on your album, I'm not trying to put your business in the street, but it was over $7 a unit. Okay, now,
right,
again, because you own the company. Now, if you were signed to the company, you would have gotten a fraction of that. If
right,
anyone's interested in knowing what the numbers are today when you're streaming, um, everyone used to talk about platinum, 1 million sales, million records sold, or 1 million CDs.
those days are
In order
gone.
to go platinum today, you have to stream over 1 billion times. 1 billion with a B. You don't like my
Exactly,
math? Check it out for yourself. There
exactly,
are some folks who are now getting royalty checks after 5, 10, 15,000 spins of $20, $22 and change. That's not even a tank of gas.
And as I was putting this thing back together, I'm like, for me, it wasn't even about the money at this point. I was just so proud that
Yeah,
they looking at this project as a vintage project. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
cool. Let me get in front of it. I couldn't believe the guy over in France. When I asked him, I said, how much do you pay for this? He said $349. I said, are you
yeah,
serious?
yeah.
He's like, yeah,
I've heard of a few situations like that where they'll spend exorbitant money. But guess what? Unfortunately, not everyone has that kind of money to spend, or the
exactly.
equivalent of the 349. See,
Exactly.
um, yeah, so you're stuck with TuneCore and Spotify and all of the other
Exactly.
streaming services, but they're the ones who make the money, and they hope that you're passionate enough about the business to just tell your friends, "Hey, look me up. I'm streaming everywhere." And most of them
Exactly.
haven't got paperwork. I've done deals with folks who don't even fill out
And
don't, don't
this is where me being under your mentorship
yeah, man.
came in handy. So
Yeah.
once I re-release this thing, right? So they asking for the publishing, who owns the publishing, who owns the masters. Of course I do. So but I
That's right.
wouldn't have known that stuff if you hadn't taught that to me. Like it was a breeze. This second time around was a breeze because That was already legit. Everything was good.
Yeah, all of that paperwork had been done years ago. It was just a matter of reissuing licenses or what have you and stuff like
That's
that.
it.
It was already done. See, but there were people in your own camp who remain nameless right now who tried to hoodwink you all. And
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dave C. The only way you know how to do is shoot it straight from the hip, and I love it. Go ahead.
yeah, but you see, but that person couldn't have done much. Yeah, he might have got away with a few units, gas money, but you still had the big piece of cheese, and that couldn't be
Boom,
taken away from you.
boom.
So and which you didn't ask me, but you know me. That brings me to another point. I would have to imagine one of the reasons why you had me come on today is because you may have viewers or listeners who are in the music business or in business. Period. It doesn't have to be the music business. It could be a dry cleaners on the corner.
Right.
Um, if your partners or the people who are working with you aren't on the same page as you as far as devotion and motivation and wanting to go up instead of hanging out at the pool hall or where the girlies are at, which is cool. You become
Absolutely.
successful, the girlies will be there. So don't worry about that.
Exactly.
If they're not on the same page with you, if they're slackers, if they're foot draggers, cut them loose. Cut them
There it
loose and keep
is.
moving. It might take you an extra 30 days, but then should it become profitable to you, you only have to look in the mirror at yourself because you did it. And
And I have to say this, Dave, and I have to give you your flowers while you're here because I know you got to run. I got to give you your flowers. If it
flowers.
wasn't for you, if it wasn't for you, I would have not have owned those masters. I would have not taken care of the proper steps in his paperwork, the publishing, everything. I wouldn't know royalties, no nothing. If it wasn't for you to make sure that paperwork was together. As a
You know
kid,
what?
I got to tell
It,
you, Dave,
it,
I got to tell you, as a kid, being out in LA, I really appreciate that because I didn't know that. I didn't know my hair from my ass, but you were
yeah, but
sticking, you was a stickler on the business and paperwork.
yeah, but check this
I
out.
appreciate that.
Every time you would call, and when you're probably saying to yourself, "Man, I don't want to bug this guy," but you needed the information.
Right.
And I used to say to folks around me, I said, Trent again. And I'm smiling because you wanted the information enough to ask me for it instead of just figure I'm just going to hand it to you. As a matter of
Right.
fact, if you remember, I would say I used to try to bog you down with stuff. Okay, you got to do these 7 things. Do A, B, C, D, and when you get through with that, E, F, G. Call me when that's done. Two
That's
days
true.
later, you say, okay, I'm at G. Where do we go from here? I'm saying, damn, I'm trying to get them off my back for a day or two. I knew that was 2 weeks worth of work. No, I'm joking. But you know what? And I can be long-winded. I'm sorry for that. But I'm going to leave you
It's
with
all
just
good. Hey,
one.
Dave, listen, guess what? Guess what, Dave? You can be as long-winded as you can because guess who owns the platform?
Yeah, well, there it is. I feel you, you know.
Do your
But
thing, man. Do your thing.
but I'm going to leave you, particularly in the world of business, or just, and it also ties into relationship or whatever it is. If there's a reason why you have to put your name to something, if you mean to do the right thing, like my father used to always say with regard to contracts. He said, if you plan on doing the honorable thing, you shouldn't mind putting your name on an agreement.
That's true.
Boom.
That's
It's
true.
always the ones talk about, come on, fam. Come on, man. We come from the same neighbor. Man, we from back in the day. Don't do me like that. Well, I'm trying to not do you like that, but right away you sounded sneaky to me. Put your X mark
Exactly.
on this, and let's just move forward. And that's something we don't have. It's just like you with the reissue of this new material. You don't have to track down people who were involved with it 30 years ago to see if the paperwork was right. You got the
That's it.
paperwork. With that, only because I got to get back to some things I'm doing here, just a couple My schedule isn't as flexible as yours because from time to time I too work for somebody.
Stop it! Stop! As he actually recording and mastering in his house, probably down in the basement. As you see, folks, come on. He's very modest, but come on.
Well, it ain't exactly a basement.
Oh, you're not. Oh, so where is it? On the second level or third level?
Well, no, actually, when we bought the house, because I was putting the studio in the house, I needed a separate entrance so that folks don't have to come into my home as such. Not that I mind that, but I'll work with anyone. So there's a separate door that goes out to the parking lot, right from the studio.
I got to get up there.
It's cool. In the mornings, I go out front, and I've got mountains in front of me, and in the back, I got mountains behind me I get the sunset in the morning, and the sun rises in the morning, and the sunset in the evening. And
hey, you know what we call it? You know the type of guy we call you?
What?
That's a rich nigga.
Oh, you see, you can take the rich off. Hey, look, man, I'm going to work. Trent, thank you for having me on. You know what?
I appreciate it, man.
Let's do this a little more often, and then this way I can listen to you instead of you listen to me.
Absolutely, it's all good. Appreciate it, folks.
Mark,
again,
take care,
as
man.
David Williams, and actually David was the one who he was actually over that project as far as the Don't Be Afraid.
It was a great project. Actually, during that time, and I worked on some other stuff coming out of Capitol Records and whatnot. And yours was the most fun, the most fun from a musical sense, because we had you and Lewis and Mike, who's an exceptional singer as well.
Right.
Do things, close the harmony up. The harmonies were good. Let's tighten them up. Let's do this. Let's put this note here, that note there. You guys shine, man.
I can't wait for you guys to hear that. Can't wait for you guys to hear the product, the finished product, the actually remastered product. And it was some great work back in the day. So you guys get to see what Japan and France and all those folks, why they spend this type of money on that product.
Cool.
Hey, before you go, this is how old we are.
Yipes. Vinyl. Hey, do me a favor.
This is how old we are.
Hug your girls for me, man. We'll talk.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedy Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.